Good morning, and welcome back to another one of these pretty awesome days on Mull. I think the weather's due to change tomorrow, so making use of today. And today's message from Mull is a spoonful of sugar, or a few, may not make the medication go down. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about blood sugar levels and the effects of diabetes or pre diabetes, or putting yourself at risk of becoming diabetic. So, um, we need blood sugar to exist, it's our preferred energy source. So, we need it to fuel exercise for activity. We also need it for brain function, for breathing, for digestion, so to fuel any of our body's processes. And we take that glucose from carbohydrates that we consume. So the sort of foods we're talking about are starchy foods, sugary foods, fruit, and some forms of dairy. So milk has certain forms of sugar in it as well. And basically, we digest that carbohydrate, we turn it into blood glucose, and that is moved into our bloodstream. Now, the issue is that we can't get that glucose into the working muscles just by themselves. We need a hormone to help us with that. And that hormone is called insulin. And that is released by the pancreas, which is an organ that sits just below your stomach. So when our bodies sense that we've got some blood glucose levels increasing in the bloodstream, we release insulin. And insulin is a bit like a key that opens a lock. So if you imagine lots of little locks on the side of the working muscle tissues, and insulin comes along and opens up all the doors, and that lets the blood glucose into the muscle tissue so it can fuel activity. Um, Now then, the problem that we get is that there is an optimum level of blood glucose and insulin, and it sort of moves up and down in a sort of rhythm all the time. Um, if we are eating too much carbohydrate, we're getting too much sugary foods in, especially, and our blood sugar levels are always going quite high, then we're asking the pancreas to release a lot of insulin all the time, and that can lead to some serious issues. Where the pancreas either doesn't release enough insulin or the insulin it releases doesn't work properly enough because it's basically being overused all the time. And that's certainly something that we see in type 2 diabetes. So there's various forms of blood sugar issues. Type 1 diabetes is an immune response to our pancreas. For some reason, the body attacks its own organ. And this is usually picked up in younger life, certainly under 40. And that's quite a serious condition, and it's normally picked up quite quick. Type 2 diabetes develops slowly over time. And basically, with type 2 diabetes, the insulin can't work properly. It's often related to people being overweight, not all the time. But if we have too much fat on our body, then basically the the area where the key goes into gets a bit furred up, if you imagine, and the key doesn't fit properly. So we don't get all the blood glucose in that we need. And what happens then is blood glucose starts to build in the bloodstream, and that's not a good thing for us because our bodies don't cope very well with high blood glucose levels or low blood glucose levels. So there's a happy medium. And when we build up high blood glucose levels, this can lead to serious issues around our eyes. So one of the first symptoms people see when they start to develop high blood glucose is sometimes glucose deposited in the lens in the front of the eye, so the vision starts to become a little bit blurry. Um, we also see the body trying to remedy that situation by flushing the glucose out, so you end up going to the toilet quite a bit. And because there's a lot of glucose in your urine, then you end up at much higher risk of infections like thrush, because it's a breeding ground for bacteria. And you sometimes notice that wounds start to heal a bit slowly because, again, it's a breeding ground for bacteria, and those processes don't happen quite as quick. Um, because the kidneys are trying to flush out the glucose, we end up that they take a lot of water with them as well. So we end up quite thirsty. So early symptoms of high blood sugar levels tend to be thirst, going to the toilet a lot, sometimes blurred vision as well. So, um, and I should also notice, I should have mentioned as well, these problems can be exacerbated because we have an energy store in our body, in the liver, where we keep energy. And the problem is that if we're not getting enough blood sugar into our working muscle tissues, the cells start to panic and they send a message to the liver and they say, we're not getting enough energy in, send us some from the battery pack. And the liver starts sending more glucose into the body. The body tries to produce more insulin, but it's not working. The key isn't working. So we end up with an even greater problem. And left unchecked, high blood glucose levels. Imagine if you had little crystals moving around in your blood, and those little crystals have sharp edges, and they start to affect the interior walls of the arteries, and they can have serious effects on organs like the kidneys, like the eyes and extremities, like the hands and the feet especially. You've probably often heard of diabetics having issues with their feet. But these issues are not just to be concerned about by diabetics. This is everyone who is overweight, who puts himself at higher risk of developing diabetes, or whose blood sugars are creeping a little bit high. So, how do we avoid this situation? Well, we can medicate, but the issue with medication is we are treating the symptom and not the root cause. We're treating the high sugar levels all the time. We're not treating the problem with the fact that our bodies are trying to produce too much insulin, and that insulin is not being, it's not as sensitive. Our bodies are not as sensitive to the insulin as they should be. So we need to look at our diet and make sure we're spreading out our meals, that we're not putting an awful lot of high sugary foods, high carbohydrate foods in at once, and exercise. So it always comes back to the same thing, doesn't it, really? Sensible diet, sensible exercise pattern, everything falls into place. So regular exercise will reduce blood sugar levels, keep them at a decent, workable level for the body, and also improves your insulin sensitivity. And with exercise, the muscles can actually unopen the lock themselves in many cases, instead of relying on insulin all the time. Now, that's quite a long one today. I'll finish up there. Just quickly to say that, remember, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the Healthy Options YouTube channel. It's going to help us going forward immensely. I know some of you have done that already, so that's been really helpful. And that's today's message from Mull. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.